What we're going to talk about now, it's another one of our kind of short and sweet, although this one's a little bit longer, food for thought sessions. One of the issues that has been kicking around for a couple years and has taken more importance in the last 6 months or a year is this whole idea of exporting energy. You know, it was kind of weird because it was only about 5 or 6 years ago we all thought we were going to be living in caves and eating in the dark. And we were talking about how to import LNG from all over the world. No one dreamed that we'd have more oil than we know what to do with. And now, just a few years later, because of all the new production coming online, there's all kinds of schemes that affect pipelines, new pipelines going in the ground trying to move both oil and gas to the coasts where it can be exported. So we thought it'd be interesting just to spend a little bit of time hearing different perspectives on the wisdom of exporting energy. So that's where we're going to go. We're going to go right in order, however it's here, and I already forgot who's, John's going to go first, John Erickson, who's the Vice President of Operations for the American Public Gas Association, not to be confused with the American Gas Association, and John probably will explain a little bit of the difference there. And let me find his presentation. There you go. Up and down buttons.
Okay, thanks, Carl. Appreciate being invited to this. I love coming to New Orleans and particularly this hotel. I was just here back in March. My brother and I, about every 4 years, have a bachelor's weekend here and run it for 4 days, and we get one of the rooms with a balcony and witnessed one of the greatest bead tosses I've ever. From a third-floor balcony into a moonroof on a car and around the gear shift, you know, a ringer. Unfortunately, didn't have a video of it, but I noticed they're videoing this. It reminds me, a couple years ago, I spoke at a public awareness seminar that PHMSA held, and I had this black sweater on it with a black background. It looked like I was just a disembodied head on the internet. It used to be up on PHMSA's website. I don't know if it still is. Oh, okay. But I do appreciate being invited. I mentioned I'm with the American Public Gas Association. We're a trade association of government-owned gas utilities. There's about 1,000 of them in the U.S. The customers own them, and that kind of drives where our position is on this. This is a map showing where there are. The lot here in Louisiana, kind of a cluster in the southeast and in the Midwest. Not so many in the rest of the country, but most of them are small, you know, just little towns and communities that decided to build their own gas system and provide gas to their citizens. Our big concern, therefore, is the price. We think that exporting LNG is going to drive up the domestic price to consumers. We have energy independence concerns. We think we can back out imports, and that should be in our interest. We know there's increasing demand in the U.S. A lot of interest talked about global warming, that coal plants are basically banned in the future, and the ones that exist will eventually be shutting down, and a lot of gas-fired units may replace that. Unknowns regarding how long shale production will last, and also safety issues, and I'm going to touch on user fees at the end. EIA just came out with a report on what they see as the impact of LNG exports on domestic prices. And I'll just skip through the graphs. Basically, you see a bunch of scenarios they looked at. But here's the bottom line. They say in their reference case, the net result will be to double the domestic price of natural gas by 2040. And that has us concerned. Energy independence, we much rather see the gas used here. It could be used in a lot of applications and back out imported oil. Doesn't make a lot of sense to spend all the time and money and energy it takes to liquefy natural gas and then ship it overseas, and then also spend money transporting oil from elsewhere here. You know, let them keep their oil and we'll use our gas and save on all that transportation fees. I mentioned this earlier. You know, EPA has rules about coal plants, and we expect that will lead to increased demand here in the U.S. that can use some of that gas. In the manufacturing sector, too, I should back up, and we have a huge price advantage over Korea and Japan in the natural gas prices. If I recall, it's about 3 or 4 times higher over there. That's created an increase in manufacturing here, bringing back jobs that were outsourced overseas, and we'd like to see that continue. The price advantage we have with energy is a big plus for our manufacturing base. We don't know what the impact of shale is going to be. There's increasing calls for stricter regulation, and in some areas even banning fracking. So we don't know if the glut of natural gas is going to continue for how long. Safety is an issue always, but when we look at safety, the last major accident at an LNG facility was 70 years ago in a technology that really isn't used anymore. There have never been any major accidents in transportation. So while we're concerned about safety, we think the current technology and regulatory system seems to have a pretty good control on making LNG safe. And lastly, I want to talk, one thing we don't think is really fair is the impact of a recent proposal on user fees that are charged by PHMSA. Back in July, they put out a notice that they're going to increase the fees by 800%, because basically that's what PHMSA's budget has increased by 800% since 1986, when they last set what the LNG fees were. And at that time, they based it on storage capacity at 4 different levels. Didn't really anticipate all these big export terminals that have capacities of millions of barrels. And kind of the unexpected result of the way the fee structure is set is, if you look at the fees that are charged to these export terminals, it comes to about a penny per barrel of storage, whereas if you look at a town like one of our members, Greenville Utilities, has a small LNG tank that they use if they have a particular cold day, they pay $2 a barrel. So we filed comments with PHMSA saying we think exported gas ought to pay at least the same fees as domestic gas LNG users. So in essence, our concern is the cost. We see, anytime you increase demand, prices are going to go up, and we have possibilities for increased demand here, and we think we should use the gas here. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, John.